The whole notion of being an artist in modern times is the product of the modern era, specifically out of the end of the 18th century. Prior to the collapse of most European monarchies, for the better part of European history, from the end of the Hellenistic period to the fall of Rome, being an artist was being an employee of the aristocracy or a subject of the king. Essentially, an artist was a government employee, working under a contract. There were wealthy merchants who afforded to commission artists, but often these wealthy merchants were also well connected with or involved with either religious institutions or royal institutions, both parts of the ruling class. This connection between commerce and government would be formalized in the mercantilist system used by the British in the final throes of their royal empire, where merchants had to get permission to start a business, and nations leveraged their economic power through monopolies and trade through their colonial outposts. Seems nothing changes even today. Still, the artists relied heavily on their benefactors and patrons. They did not involve themselves in any open market. You have trade guilds and artist studios. The main artist would employ technicians and artisans, and they would assemble works of art, depending on the artist, like an assembly line. One artisan would be expert in painting flowers. Another would be specialist in painting draperies and cloth, and sometimes lace. Another artisan would paint animals, wherever animals were needed. Technicians would stretch the canvas and lay ground on the canvas. They would mix the paint with the right percentage of medium and would lay down underpaintings from the drawings prepared by the lead artist. After it was all said and done, the main artist, the only one flashing his signature on the canvas, would paint the faces, hands, and other key features that would define that as the artist's work. Not all painters worked like this, but many did. The key part of this is that an artist had to have workers under him to prepare everything that was necessary. This was long before the Industrial Revolution, before the standardized manufacturing of artist materials. Because of this glaring limitation in supplies and the high specialization of the application of these materials, they were exceptionally expensive, to such a degree that only through the patronage of very wealthy people, merchants and the aristocracy, could an artist have access to them. Again, this was before the standardized manufacturing of artist supplies, where every brush was handmade, where certain pigments were made from ground-up gemstones, where these same pigments today are made artificially, through various combinations of chemical reactions with organic and inorganic materials. It is a great irony that artistic people today are likely to oppose industrialization and factories, for a good reason, of course, and loathe the whole concept, yet it is this and this alone that allows them their artistic endeavors. While a percentage of successful artists, a creative who works their own schedule and makes their own work for an audience at a profit, where they have full control over what they do, this is a very small percentage today. In the past, it was almost non-existent. Michelangelo, being one of the few in his day who were independent and didn't work for a studio and worked on commission, still was at the beck and call of the Pope. A perfect example of this is portrayed in the 1984 film Amadeus, the dramatized biopic of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. There you see the composer as recognized even in his day as a supreme talent, and one of the most brilliant composers of his day, and was still treated as a servant by the ruling class.